NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg recently condemned China's support for Russia and declared a new era of competition with Beijing, emphasizing the global nature of security. Stoltenberg, along with U.S. President Joe Biden, advocates for stronger NATO involvement in countering China, aligning with the national security strategy's goal of enhancing connections between democratic allies in the Indo-Pacific and Europe. Progress includes NATO identifying China as a security challenge and boosting cooperation with Indo-Pacific partners on issues like cyber defense and maritime security. Additionally, NATO has increased its presence in the region, with observers attending military exercises and NATO allies participating in drills with Asian partners. However, the deepening cooperation between NATO and its Asian partners may not serve their best strategic interests. Although China's assertiveness poses complex challenges and transatlantic and Indo-Pacific security are interconnected, NATO is not the appropriate forum for trans-regional cooperation against China. Involving NATO in Asia could fuel Beijing's narrative of a US-led confrontation and alienate Asian countries without enhancing regional security or deterrence. NATO can indirectly contribute to Indo-Pacific security by prioritizing the threat posed by Russia and building European military capabilities, allowing the US to pivot towards Asia. The alliance should maintain a lower profile in Asia to avoid stoking Chinese paranoia, focusing on discrete cooperation with the region. Instead of drawing NATO into Asia, policymakers should leverage the European Union's economic and diplomatic power to build trans-regional cooperation through flexible partnerships and issue-based coalitions. Such a network of close ties can effectively counter global threats, whereas NATO's involvement could leave both Asia and Europe less secure. NATO's outreach may be welcomed by partners like Japan, but countries like South Korea and New Zealand are cautious due to their trade ties with China and desire for foreign policy independence. Australia's enthusiasm fluctuates with its domestic politics. NATO's engagement in Asia is misaligned with regional dynamics, particularly in South and Southeast Asia, where many states fear it will disrupt their balance with Washington and Beijing. Most Asian countries do not see Beijing as an existential threat and prefer not to choose sides in the U.S. China rivalry. Concerns that NATO's involvement could force countries to pick sides and divide Asia are widespread. Asian leaders worry that NATO's presence could further Washington's regional security bloc ambitions, reminiscent of colonial and interventionist histories. Figures like Singapore's former UN ambassador Kishore Mahbubani warn that NATO could export its militaristic culture to East Asia, which is not suited for a region with non-alignment traditions like India and Indonesia. NATO's reassurances that it will not move into the South China Sea or admit Asian members have not convinced skeptics. The alliance's efforts to deepen ties with Indo-Pacific 4 countries and its push for a liaison office in Japan fuel concerns about its intentions. Increased NATO involvement could make the alliance, rather than China, seem like a regional security threat. Supporters argue that NATO's partnerships can enhance regional deterrence, but a more active role could backfire, feeding insecurity and instability. NATO's tilt towards Asia exacerbates China's paranoia, raising the risk of conflict. Additionally, NATO's political will and military capabilities are insufficient for meaningful Indo-Pacific security contributions. European allies are preoccupied with Russia, economically tied to China, or see Asia as non-essential. NATO's limited capacity and lack of credible security commitments mean its involvement in Asia is counterproductive. Instead of militarized Western platforms, a nuanced approach is needed. European states should strengthen their military capabilities for defense against Russia, allowing the US to focus on Asia. Trans-regional cooperation should leverage Europe's diplomatic and economic strengths, promoting governance and countering Beijing's influence at the UN. The EU, less controversial than NATO, can address broader security concerns, and European states should integrate into regional security architectures through multilateral and minilateral initiatives. This approach fosters cooperation without provoking conflict, ensuring more balanced and effective strategies against China's assertiveness.